The great question. Imagine waking up one day in a world that feels perfectly safe. Every need is met. Every desire is within reach. There is no struggle, no hunger, no storm of uncertainty to push you forward. At first, this world feels like a paradise, a long-awaited reward for all the chaos and suffering you've endured. You sink into the softness of this reality like a body lowering into warm water. There is no edge, no harshness, only endless ease. But then, slowly, without a sound, something inside you begins to wither. You can't see it, but you feel it. A hollowness creeping in where once there was hunger, curiosity, the spark of life. Days blend into each other like pages of a book that was never meant to be read. And one day you look in the mirror and realize the person staring back at you is a ghost. Comfortable, yes, but lifeless. How does something so desirable, comfort, become a silent predator of human potential? Why does the very thing we chase with all our energy, the thing society promises as the ultimate prize, end up draining us of the very essence that makes us alive? We spend our lives trying to make things easier, safer, more predictable, believing that happiness lies on the other side of struggle. We build homes that protect us from storms, careers that give us stability, habits that eliminate uncertainty. Yet the more we succeed in surrounding ourselves with comfort, the more something inside us begins to die. It is as if the human spirit was never designed for endless safety, as if the soul needs friction the way fire needs oxygen, and yet we do everything in our power to eliminate it. Why? What if the greatest danger to your life is not failure, not poverty, not even death, but comfort? What if the warm embrace of convenience is slowly smothering your growth, numbing your will, and erasing your capacity to dream? These are questions we rarely ask, because comfort feels good. It is seductive. It whispers, "Stay here. You've earned this." It convinces you that its arms are safety, when, in truth, they are chains. Think about the last time you were truly alive. Was it when everything was easy, or when you were fighting for something that mattered? When did you feel your blood roar, your heart ignite? Was it in the quiet hum of routine, or in the chaos of uncertainty, where you had to push beyond what you thought was possible? Human history is a story written in struggle. Every great idea, every invention, every revolution was born from discomfort, someone refusing to accept what was easy. Yet here we are, in an age where we worship comfort like a god. We design our lives around it. Technology exists not to challenge us, but to save us from effort. Our entertainment feeds us pleasure without work. Our jobs reward predictability, not daring. We tell our children to be safe, but rarely to be brave. And then we wonder why so many of us feel restless, anxious, and numb in a world that has never been more comfortable. Here is the paradox. The more you seek comfort, the less you truly live. The more you eliminate struggle, the less you grow. Because life, at its core, is motion, an eternal becoming. And becoming requires pressure. Growth is uncomfortable by design. The seed cracks before it blooms. The muscle tears before it strengthens. The mind doubts before it awakens. Comfort kills not with violence, but with silence. It doesn't shout. It doesn't attack. It simply lulls you to sleep, one soft day at a time, until you wake up years later and realize you never became who you could have been. So ask yourself, are you truly alive, or just existing in a padded cage you built for yourself? How many dreams have you traded for convenience? How many moments of greatness have you sacrificed on the altar of ease? And what would he? What extraordinary life would unfold if you dared to break free from the very thing that feels safest? Because here's the truth that no one wants to admit: comfort is not your friend. It is not the promised land. It is the slow poison of ambition, the silent assassin of potential. And yet, you drink it every day. Why? And more importantly, what will it cost you in the end? The answer begins when we stop romanticizing comfort and start asking the question no one dares to ask. What is it doing to us? The hidden problem. Its psychological, philosophical roots. The problem with comfort isn't just that it makes you lazy or unmotivated. That's too shallow, too simple. The real danger lies deeper, buried in the architecture of the human psyche. To understand why comfort is the greatest threat to your potential, we must descend into the roots of human nature, the places where philosophy and psychology intersect. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." This is not a metaphor. It is a law. Growth requires tension, and tension is uncomfortable. When you strip life of this tension, you strip it of meaning. Yet modern society has engineered an existence designed to minimize friction, eliminate hardship, and anesthetize pain. We call this progress. But is it? Or is it a silent regression, a return to unconsciousness disguised as evolution? From a psychological perspective, the human brain evolved in an environment of danger and scarcity. Our ancestors lived in perpetual uncertainty. Food was never guaranteed, predators lurked in the dark, and survival depended on constant vigilance. This adversity wired our nervous systems to thrive on challenge. Dopamine, the molecule of motivation, fires not when rewards come easily, but when effort precedes them. Comfort short-circuits this mechanism. It floods you with rewards without demand. No hunt, no pursuit, no climb, just endless consumption. The brain becomes addicted to this ease like a drug, and like all drugs, it requires higher due. Says to feel anything at all. This is why modern life is saturated with overstimulation, yet haunted by boredom. We binge-watch shows, scroll endlessly, snack compulsively, because we crave the illusion of engagement while avoiding the discomfort of real struggle. Nietzsche warned of this future when he spoke of the last man, a creature of mediocrity who seeks only comfort, safety, and the avoidance of pain. He does not dream of greatness. He does not hunger for transcendence. He only blinks, content in his small pleasures, asking for nothing more than to be left undisturbed. Nietzsche saw this as the end of humanity, the death of the heroic spirit, and he was right. The last man is here. He lives in climate-controlled rooms, eats from glowing screens, and calls this life. He has traded the terrifying freedom of becoming for the tranquil prison of being. And here's the tragedy. He believes he is happy because he has forgotten what true aliveness feels like. Arthur Schopenhauer, in his bleak wisdom, argued that life is suffering and that happiness is merely the temporary cessation of pain. Comfort, then, offers the illusion of victory, a life without suffering. But remove all suffering and you remove all striving. Remove striving and you remove purpose, because purpose, by its very nature, is a pursuit of what is not yet achieved. It is born in the tension between who you are and who you could become. Comfort erases that tension. It whispers, "You're fine as you are, stay here." But you are not fine. You are unfinished. You are meant to become more than this moment. Comfort steals that from you in the name of kindness. Jung spoke often of the shadow, the hidden, repressed aspects of the self that we refuse to confront. Do you know what lives in your shadow when you choose comfort over challenge? Potential. Raw, untapped, feral potential, screaming to be unleashed. But you wit. I'll never meet it in a warm bed. You will meet it in the fire of discomfort, in the places where fear lives. Why? Because fear is a compass. Whatever scares you often points toward what will grow you. Comfort teaches you to run from fear, to seek safety instead. And so, year by year, you amputate your own greatness in exchange for the narcotic of ease. Society loves this because comfort makes people predictable. A comfortable population is docile. It does not revolt, does not rebel, does not dream of impossible things. It buys what it's told to buy, believes what it's told to believe, and calls it freedom. Aldous Huxley predicted this in Brave New World, a society where control is not enforced by pain, but by pleasure. No whips, no chains, only endless entertainment, distraction, and artificial happiness. We think tyranny wears a boot, but the real tyranny wears a smile. And comfort is its greatest tool. Look around. How many people do you know who are truly alive, who burn with purpose, who dare to defy the gravity of mediocrity? And how many drift through their days anesthetized by routine, numbed by small comforts, half asleep in lives they never truly chose? This is the hidden epidemic no one talks about, the quiet suffocation of the human spirit under the weight of its own convenience. We don't die in a blaze of tragedy. We die in increments, one cozy decision at a time, until the fire goes out and all that remains is smoke. The question is no longer whether comfort feels good. It does. The question is, what is the cost of living in permanent comfort? What do you sacrifice every time you choose ease over effort, safety over struggle? The answer, as we will see, is everything that makes you who you are meant to be. And if that truth unsettles you, good, it should. Because the cost of comfort is not measured in dollars or minutes. It is measured in the depth of your life, the reach of your soul, and the story you will one day leave behind. And so we arrive at the next question, perhaps the most settling of all. If comfort steals our potential, what does that theft do to our destiny? Not just individually, but collectively. What unseen forces shape the world when a generation chooses ease over greatness? The unseen consequences. The greatest tragedies in life rarely arrive with thunderclaps. They do not come screaming into your existence with fire and chaos. No, they creep in silently, like ivy climbing a wall, slow, patient, inevitable. Comfort works this way. It doesn't destroy you in a single moment. It doesn't announce itself as an enemy. It smiles, it soothes, and it says, "Stay a little longer. You've earned this." And so, you do. You stay. A day, a month, a year. And then, one morning, you wake up and wonder why everything feels dull, why your life feels weightless, why the hunger that once drove you has vanished. That is how comfort kills, not violently, but gently. And the corpse it leaves behind is not your body, but your potential. But let's make this real. Imagine a life without struggle. Imagine every door swinging open without resistance, every mountain already leveled before you arrive. You would never climb. You would never sweat. You would never fail. And at first, this sounds like a dream. But linger on it. What happens when there is nothing left to fight for? What happens to the fire that makes you human? It dies. And so do you. Slowly, invisibly, from the inside out. That is the first consequence. The death of meaning. Viktor Frankl, who endured the horrors of concentration camps, wrote that life's meaning is forged in struggle, that without something to fight for, existence becomes unbearable. Comfort robs you of that fight. It sterilizes life until all that remains is a shallow pursuit of pleasure. And this doesn't just happen to individuals. Entire societies rot from the inside when comfort becomes their god. History is littered with the core, as of civilizations that grew fat on luxury, soft on ease, and blind to danger. Rome didn't fall in a single night. It decayed slowly as decadence replaced discipline, as bread and circuses numbed the masses as the hunger for greatness gave way to the hunger for comfort. Today, the parallels are chilling. We live in an age of instant gratification, an empire of convenience where everything is one click away. We call this progress, but what if it is a quiet regression, a return to the cradle, where we trade growth for safety and purpose for pleasure? Comfort has another consequence, one you feel every day but rarely name: anxiety. Yes, the paradox is real. The more we surround ourselves with comfort, the more restless we become. Why? Because the human psyche is not designed for stillness. It craves challenge the way lungs crave air. Strip life of adversity, and the mind creates its own battles. That's why we see epidemics of anxiety and depression in societies where physical suffering has been minimized. The body is safe, but the soul is starving. And when the soul starves, it doesn't sit quietly. It screams through existential dread, through endless scrolling, through addictions that promise meaning but deliver only emptiness. And here's the cruelest irony: comfort breeds fear. You'd think it would make you fearless, but the opposite is true. The more comfortable you are, the more terrified you become of losing that comfort. You stop taking risks. You avoid the unknown. You shrink your world to the size of your couch and call it security. But security is a lie. The walls you build to keep discomfort out become the same walls that keep life out. Soon, your world is so small that even the slightest disruption, a failed relationship, a financial hiccup, a harsh word, feels catastrophic. You have no resilience because comfort stole it from you in exchange for ease. This is why mediocrity spreads like a plague in an age of abundance. People no longer live, they exist. They float through their days anesthetized by routine, pacified by entertainment, chasing dopamine. They hits from screens while the real adventures of life pass them by. They mistake motion for progress, scrolling, clicking, consuming, while never moving an inch toward the person they were meant to become. And society applauds this because comfort is profitable. A comfortable population consumes more, questions less, obeys quietly. It does not revolt. It does not seek truth. It does not burn for greatness. It buys, it watches, it sleeps. And in that sleep, everything that matters, freedom, purpose, selfhood, slowly dies. The consequences go even deeper. Comfort kills creativity. Think about it. When do the greatest works of art, the most revolutionary ideas, the boldest discoveries emerge? Not in times of plenty, but in times of tension. Struggle sharpens the mind. Discomfort ignites imagination. Necessity births invention. Yet here we are, drowning in tools that promise ease and wondering why true innovation feels so rare. Because ease is an acid. It dissolves the very friction that makes brilliance possible. And what about relationships? Comfort poisons them too. Love thrives in effort. It demands presence, sacrifice, growth. But when comfort becomes the goal, love becomes convenience. We swipe, we scroll, we ghost. Because commitment feels like discomfort, and discomfort feels like failure. And so, even in connection, we remain alone, comfortably isolated behind screens that keep us warm while our hearts grow cold. Do you see the pattern? Comfort does not just soften the body, it softens the soul, it sedates the will, it steals the hunger that once made us human, and the longer you live in its arms, the harder it becomes to break free, because comfort is addictive. It is the sweetest poison, the kind that tastes like salvation while killing you in silence. So ask yourself this: what has comfort already taken from you? What risks did you avoid because you didn't want the sting of failure? What dreams did you bury because they demanded too much pain? How much of your life is truly yours, and how much belongs to the quiet tyranny of ease? If that question unsettles you, good, because the truth is even darker. The longer you cling to comfort, the smaller you become, not just in ambition, but in spirit. And when the spirit shrinks, life itself begins to collapse. But what if you could break the spell? What if you could reclaim the hunger that once made you unstoppable? That is where the rebellion begins, the rebellion, how to break free. If comfort is a silent assassin, rebellion begins with a single act of awareness, admitting that what feels safe is, in truth, dangerous. The first battle is internal because comfort has rewired your instincts. It has taught you to equate ease with happiness, struggle with failure, and fear with danger. To break free, you must unlearn this conditioning. You must flip the script entirely. See struggle as your ally, fear as your compass, and discomfort as the only soil where greatness grows. This is not a motivational slogan, it is a law of nature. Everything alive grows against resistance. Trees push through stone, muscles tear before they strengthen, and minds expand only when stretched beyond certainty. So how do you reclaim your hunger? You begin with small, deliberate acts of discomfort. Not chaos, not recklessness, but chosen hardship. Take cold showers. Wake up earlier than you want to. Say no to the easy yes and yes to the hard no. Why? Because every time you choose discomfort over ease, you train your nervous system to stop fleeing fear. You dismantle the illusion that safety equals life. You awaken the dormant fire of willpower that comfort has smothered for years. These acts are symbolic, but symbols shape the soul. But this rebellion goes deeper than habit hacks. It demands a shift in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as someone who seeks comfort and start seeing yourself as someone who seeks challenge, not because pain is good in itself, but because growth lives on the other side of pain. Nietzsche said, "Become who you are." Notice the paradox. You are not yet who you are. You are a work in progress, an unfinished symphony. And the symphony only plays when you leave the warm room of comfort and step into the raw, wild arena of life. Ask yourself, What would you do if you stopped worshipping ease? What dreams would you resurrect? What mountains would you climb? Understand this. Freedom does not live in comfort. Freedom lives in courage. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. The greatest mistake of modern life is believing that comfort and freedom are the same. They are opposites. Comfort is the cage. Freedom is the open sky beyond it. But the sky is terrifying because it comes with storms. Most people choose the cage because it feels safe. Do not be most people. Burn the cage. Step into the storm. That is where you will remember what it means to be alive. You will be tempted to think this is about extremes, selling everything, living in the wilderness, renouncing pleasure. No. This is not about rejecting comfort entirely. It is about refusing to let comfort become your master. It is about reclaiming discomfort as your teacher. Pain is not the enemy. Meaninglessness is, and meaning is born in friction. Viktor Frankl wrote, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. When you choose discomfort for a purpose greater than ease, you are no longer suffering, you are becoming." But how do you sustain this rebellion in a world built to seduce you back into softness? You build rituals of resistance. For example, when faced with two choices, the easy one and the one that stretches you, choose the stretch. When your mind whispers, "Stay safe," ask, "What will I lose if I listen?" And remember this truth, every time you avoid and discomfort, you trade your future for your present. Every time you embrace it, you trade your present for your future. Which life do you want? The one that feels good now but leaves you hollow later, or the one that feels hard now but leaves you immortal in your own story? Rebellion also means confronting the myth of balance. You have been told that life should be easy, smooth, balanced. But balance is not what you seek. Vitality is. And vitality comes from intensity, periods of deep challenge followed by moments of deep rest. Comfort promises constant balance and delivers constant boredom. Break that pattern. Take risks. Learn a skill that terrifies you. Speak the truth you've been silencing. Travel alone to a place where no one knows your name. Do something, anything, that makes your pulse race for the right reasons. Because aliveness does not happen by accident. It is a choice. A violent, radical choice in a world that wants you docile. And yes, this rebellion will hurt. You will lose things, illusions, comforts, the approval of those who worship safety. Good. Let them go. Greatness always costs. The question is not whether it will hurt. The question is whether it will matter. And here's the truth. The pain of discipline, of courage, of risk, is sharp but short-lived. The pain of comfort, the pain of a life unlived, is slow, quiet, eternal. Choose your pain. Now pause for a moment and picture the version of yourself that exists on the other side of this rebellion. The one who stopped hiding behind comfort. The one who dared, who bled, who burned for something larger than themselves. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is waiting. But it will not come knocking. You must cross the threshold. You must walk willingly into the fire, because the fire is the only place where the old self dies and the real self is born. So ask yourself, when your story is told, by your lips or by the silence you leave behind, what will it say? That you stayed safe or that you lived? And this leads us to the final revelation, the truth too. It will shatter everything you thought you knew about comfort, freedom, and the meaning of life itself. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. Here is the truth most people never see, because comfort blinds them. Life was never meant to be easy. It was never meant to feel safe. And the ultimate tragedy is that everything you seek, purpose, meaning, freedom, does not live in ease. It lives in struggle. It hides in the places that scare you. It waits on the other side of the things you resist. Comfort convinces you otherwise. It whispers that happiness is the absence of pain. But that is a lie. Happiness is not found in a padded room where nothing touches you. It is found in the raw, unfiltered experience of being fully alive, and being fully alive demands discomfort, it demands risk, it demands stepping into the unknown and letting it shape you into something greater. Carl Jung understood this when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But he also warned that becoming is not for the faint of heart. It requires confronting your shadow, the parts of you that comfort helps you avoid. Why does this matter? Because your shadow contains everything you fear, but also everything you need to grow. Inside that darkness are your unrealized strengths, your deepest truths, your hidden power. Comfort keeps you from ever meeting them. It tells you that safety is wholeness, when in reality, safety is fragmentation. You cannot integrate what you refuse to face. Here is the paradox that will haunt you if you ignore it. The more you cling to comfort, the smaller your life becomes. Your world contracts until all that exists is what feels good, what feels safe. And when your world shrinks, so does your soul. But when you embrace discomfort, your world expands. Fear becomes possibility. Struggle becomes meaning. And meaning is everything. Without it, you can have every luxury, every convenience, every comfort, and still feel hollow. Look around. Do you see it? The quiet despair of lives built on ease, the scrolling, the consuming, the endless search for stimulation to fill the void. That is what comfort does when it becomes your master. It kills your hunger and leaves you starving for something you can't name. And here is the ultimate realization. The goal of life is not comfort. It is transcendence. It is to become more than what you were yesterday, to climb higher than you thought you could, to tear through the walls of limitation until you stand in a place that once terrified you and realize, I made it. That is freedom, that is power, that is life, and you cannot buy it, you cannot download it, you cannot find it in a life that is smooth, easy, predictable. You can only earn it in the furnace of discomfort. That furnace is where the old you dies and the real you is born. Nietzsche's words echo here like thunder. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Chaos is not comfort. It is uncertainty, pain, struggle. But without it, no stars are born. And maybe that is why so many people live without light, because they never dared to enter the chaos. They traded their fire for a thermostat, their wings for a couch, and then they wonder why the sky feels so far away. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Comfort is not neutral. It does not leave you where you are. It pulls you backward, slowly, silently, until one day you wake up and realize you have become something you never intended, a shadow of the person you could have been. And by then, the chains feel permanent. But they are not. They never were. You can break them, today, now, not by hating comfort, but by dethroning it, by choosing every single day to do one thing that scares you, to lean into the edge instead of shrinking from it, to replace the question, what feels good, with what makes me grow, because growth is life, and life is never comfortable. That is the truth. Comfort tried to hide from you. The ultimate truth, the things you most desire, the strength, the freedom, the greatness, they all live beyond a line called discomfort. You can stand on this side of the line forever, safe and stagnant, or you can cross it. And if you do, everything changes. Not because the world gets easier, but because you become stronger, strong enough to live without walls, strong enough to bear the storms, strong enough to dance in the chaos and call it beautiful. So the question is not, will you suffer? You will. The question is, will your suffering have meaning, or will it be the empty suffering of a life unlived? That choice is yours, and maybe, years from now, when you look back, you will thank yourself for choosing the fire over the cushion, the storm over the cage. Because in that storm, you will have found not just who you are, but who you were always meant to become.